What's up everyone? I thought I decided to do a video on my experience with the Xbox Series X since I pretty much owned it for nearly 6 months, and I thought I'd share my experience with it, especially if you're curious of how this new console has treated me over the last months. I do want to say that I've never upgraded my base Xbox One because I do know there was an Xbox One X, which is basically the 4K Xbox One that came out in late 2017. Not to get confused with the Series X, which is the stronger console. So I was stuck with the base Xbox One since 2014 until 1 week before Christmas of 2020. I finally got my Series X. I got it through Walmart, and I was so close to not getting this console because I heard about this restock through a YouTube live stream, and apparently there was going to be like a restock happening in like an hour. So I decided to gamble my chances, and what do you know, I ended up getting lucky of ordering one through Walmart, and my god, it was crazy. The moment you were allowed to buy the console, it was already sold out, so I had to wait for like 30 minutes before I could order mine. Eventually I got the console, and I remember like Walmart told me like I had to wait for like 1 month to get it, but for some reason it came early. Like I think I got it by like 2 weeks or something like that. And yeah, it was really awesome that, you know, I got the console legit, and the console has been, you know, such a great experience so far. I mean, it's pretty much made my base Xbox One completely obsolete. There's no point of going back to that console since Series X is a vastly upgraded version of the original Xbox One, and it's also cool that it's backwards compatible with the older peripherals. Like I bought my PowerA Spectra controller like, you know, a few like some months ago before I got my Series X, and it was still relatively new, and I can still use it for this console. The new Series X controller is cool. It's basically a slightly different version of the stock Xbox One controller, but I still prefer the regular Xbox One controller more due to the slightly bigger size, and I do think the new D-pad is really the best D-pad design that Microsoft has ever made for all their controllers. It just feels nice, it's tactile, and I think it can be very useful for D-pad driven games. With that said, I still prefer like the stock Xbox One controller. I just really love like the overall feel of it because, like, I guess like they made the Series X and Series S controller like more grippy, and I kind of don't really like it as much, but I don't know, it's just preference really, because I actually still have like my Series X controller that I haven't been using for like months, and I do plan on selling that thing with my base Xbox One in like the upcoming weeks. But yeah, so far, you know, the Series X, one of like the thing that Microsoft marketed this console was like it was going to allow you to play like your favorite games with better load times. It was going to look better and all that stuff, and Doom 2016 has greatly benefited from that upgrade since load times are much faster in campaign and Snap Map, which is awesome. That was, you know, that game was one of my favorite games during the Xbox One era, and now it's even better to play it on the Series X. I also noticed that Doom Eternal seems to run better too, especially in the Ancient Gods Part 1, where sometimes the game does feel rather choppy on the first level. However, after upgrading to the Series X, I feel like that frame rate issue isn't really as much apparent like it was in the base Xbox One, so it's really awesome to, you know, have the better frame rate. And I definitely noticed like the texture quality is way higher too with the Series X, and my god, like Doom Eternal just looks really pretty with like all like the settings all cranked up and all that stuff. And I'm only playing on the 1080p monitor, keep in mind, and it looks like gorgeous with like the 1080p maxed. I think it's a static 1080p resolution, because I do know the both the Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, it runs on like a dynamic resolution for the base Xbox One. So this game you're watching is Rage 2, and this is technically my first Xbox Series X game. I actually got this game from Amazon like 2 days before I got the console, and it's definitely an upgraded version from the base Xbox One. Better resolution, better frame rate, better load times, you name it. It's a solid game. Definitely better than Rage 1. And I got it for $10, which I think is a steal. And I definitely will be playing more of this game. Trying out the end game content, like doing all the side missions, doing New Game Plus. Maybe check out the DLCs in the future, stuff like that. But in general, this game is pretty much what Rage 1 should have been. It's a very, entertaining sandbox-style single-player driven FPS game that has a lot of like emphasis on exploration and high action moments, which is pretty much like some of the ingredients that I really want in a game like this. Right now, there hasn't been many must-buy exclusives for the Series X right now, but who knows what E3 will announce in the upcoming 3 days. I'm looking forward to a game called The Ascent in a month, which is basically like a cyberpunk Diablo type of game, which it looks right up my alley. And if it's good, I'll be spending a lot of time in that game for sure. I do hope Microsoft do bring their A game at their show, because I really don't know what to expect. Microsoft always had like a mixed E3 presentation throughout the years, but I think this is the time where they really need to deliver, especially all that hype of the Bethesda acquisition they acquired, Personally, I'm very happy playing with like all my old games in a better and finer tuned experience, since I pretty much play them still, and I'm always busy with something when I'm playing on Xbox. So I can wait for the true Xbox Series X exclusives or killer apps whenever they are ready to be released. If you haven't upgraded your base Xbox One, the Series X is absolutely an incredible experience, and I feel like the moment you get a Series X, it's time to give away your Xbox One, because you're never going back to it, without a doubt. Now, before I end this video, I do want to share some of my experience with the wear and tear moments after using this console, because has there been any weird issues I've encountered with my consoles throughout the month? And the answer is yes. Sometimes I do get this weird moment where I turn on my Xbox and it fails to read my external hard drive. It fails to read my controller signaling, whether it's wireless or wired, and at that time I thought my console was dying, but eventually I found out that if you leave your console on and you unplug the power cable and then turn it back on in like 10 to 15 seconds, it fixes everything. This has happened to me twice so far, and it's extremely rare, but I think I will probably have another moment like that eventually. I personally believe it's probably the power cable failing to signal the console power or something, because I'm not sure if it's the power cable or it's the internal hardware of the console. But like I said, I've only encountered this issue twice so far throughout the nearly 6 months of usage. Sometimes the Xbox can have some weird moments with ejecting the disc. Sometimes it'll immediately put the disc back in the console when I'm trying to eject it, but that's also a very rare thing I've encountered, so it's not really an issue. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you for watching, and if there's any questions you want to ask, leave them in the comments and I'll answer them if I have something to say.
Destination